looks like Ubisoft is not doing that well. They have been falling off for years now. I personally think they haven't made a good game since like Assassin's Creed 4 or Far Cry 4. Their stock is also falling apart and they release garbage after garbage. They are the worst when it comes to AAA gaming. They do the same boring slop every single time and their games don't even work. They release buggy, broken games and release them as the most expensive games in this space. And recently they released Star Wars Outlaws and nobody bought it. Why? Because the game features a hideous protagonist, because that's all gaming developers do nowadays is make women hideous. And plus, nobody cares about Star Wars anymore because Disney brutally beat that franchise into the ground with all these horrible adaptations. So of course, a game featured in the Star Wars universe wasn't going to sell well. We have an article to look at from Insider Gaming, and the headline reads, Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies in a month since it launched, and that is not good for Ubisoft. They spend a lot of money on these games. A lot of these AAA games that cost like 200 plus million, 300 million, and that's before any sort of marketing. They gotta buy a bunch of ads, they gotta pay off these shill meat riding YouTubers to say it's the greatest thing ever, this is the Star Wars games we always wanted. You know, all these fake fucking YouTube channels, they're all full of shit. And the same thing with journalists. A lot of YouTubers are just as terrible as games journalists when it comes to shilling for these big companies. So you really can't even trust that much people when it comes to game reviews nowadays. But let's continue reading. Star Wars Outlaws was plagued with issues at launch, some of which led Ubisoft to make drastic tweaks. It wasn't well received by the general market and gamers worldwide have been giving it pretty low scores. It comes at no surprise to learn that in an entire month on the shelves, Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies. It's not as many sales as Ubisoft expected, which explains the recent comments about the game's performance proving softer than expected. It's also partly why Assassin's Creed Shadows were considerably delayed, being pushed back from November 2024 to February 2025. I'm not sure what that has to do with Star Wars. Assassin's Creed was delayed because they knew that game was going to be dead on arrival. That game is the most controversial game of 2024. Everybody waited a long time for an Assassin's Creed game in Japan, and what do? They have a black protagonist, a real life person, instead of making a fictional character that represents that country and time period, which is what they usually do in Assassin's Creed games, but they couldn't help themselves. And that game has been getting scrutiny after scrutiny from lying historians that want to claim that Yasuke was a samurai when he wasn't, and plus the historical inaccuracies within the game itself and the environments, with the developers using Chinese architecture in a Japanese game, in a Japanese environment I mean. So I don't know what the hell that has to do with Star Wars. Star Wars is failing because Star Wars as a franchise is dead and the game is buggy. Even at the start of the game, people were talking about how their save files were being deleted. Imagine playing a game for a long time and all your progress was for nothing. Save files were getting nuked from this game. That's why the game it sucks. It's boring. It's for different reasons. We're playing as basically a gender swap version of Han Solo instead of them just making a Han Solo game. And the game just looks ugly. The women look ugly. The environments look ugly. The shit is broken. Those two things are not related at all. I don't know why he made that retarded comparison, but whatever, let's just continue reading. Insider Gaming hasn't been able to learn what the expected sales figure was for Star Wars Outlaws, but we have secured a current sales figure from sources close to the game. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has tricked over 1 million sales worldwide. To put that into perspective, we reported in January 2024 that 3 months after Assassin's Creed Mirage had hit the market, it has secured 5 million sales. In early trailers and demos, Star Wars Outlaws impressed gamers excited to explore a vast open world environment as a new character following an original story. As time wore on, the sentiment around the game weared somewhat, and gameplay videos released close to the launch of the game failed to fill consumers with a sense of anticipation. Yeah, because it looks like shit. It always looks like shit. It always looked boring. The first time people even saw the game, they realized how hideous the main character is. So if you're not going to even draw people in with an interesting looking character, you already lost a lot of people. That's it. And not only that, the people behind the game are disrespectful. I remember the woman behind the voice of the character says that the gaming industry is misogynistic, after gamers were defending her because Ubisoft ruined her by scanning her beautiful face and then ruining it in the game. And then she attacked gamers. I made a video on that a while back. Click on the top right corner if you want to watch it. So it's not even just how stupid and how boring and ugly the game is and how buggy and busted it is. You have these disrespectful bitches is behind the project attacking the fans. So I don't know what you mean by moments leading up to release. It did not impress gamers. It never impressed me. It always looked rough. Even the first gameplay footage looked rough to a lot of people on the internet. And that was months before release. So I don't know what you mean by up and leading until release. It always was going to be a garbage game. And no amount of meat writing from all these different journalists across these different websites saying this is a great game, this is a 10 out of 10, a masterpiece. That wasn't going to save the game. Same thing with these fake fucking YouTubers. Oh my god, it's just like Red Dead Redemption. Are you fucking retarded? Are you really going to make that comparison? I'm not even joking. A lot of these people were.
Not only does it feel like Tomb Raider, but it feels like portions of Assassin's Creed, portions of Far Cry, a taste of Red Dead Redemption.
These simplistic shootouts can also be brought to a faster conclusion via the use of Kay's adrenaline rush move, almost identical to the Deadeye targeting from the Red Dead Redemption series.
It's going to be like a GTA-style wanted system.
The wanted system is also like very Red Dead and like Grand Theft Auto style.
That's how desperate Ubisoft was. Told these people to make these absurd comparisons. So this game was always going to be dead on arrival. But let's finish reading the article. On social, content and streaming platforms, the buzz around Star Wars Outlaws dried up pretty quickly. And all that was left was a string of clips posted to social media showcasing the game's poor stealth sequences and bugs. This is the kind of thing that Ubisoft moved to patch up not long after launch. But the damage was done. And it just repeats itself about how the game did so well, whatever the article is over. What do you expect? They have bugs in every game. Their games do not work. Only in the game industry can you sell a broken fucking product after you already overpriced them with charging them $70. Because $70 games is a scam. You don't want your games to be so expensive. Why don't you spend more money on the actual fucking gameplay instead of this ugly ass real life cinematic? $70 games is a scam. And the best version of the game, or the ultimate, the super deluxe, whatever they want to call it, it was like $130, maybe even more than that. I can't remember. So you're overcharging people even more, and the game does not work. It's busted. Like, Ubisoft is the worst of the fucking worst when it comes to terrible games in the industry. They make the same fucking formula. These Assassin's Creed games, these Far Cry games follow the same formula. No innovation from this company. They are the peak of slop. They are the worst of the worst when it comes to innovation. They have no innovation. Just boring, buggy bullshit. I don't know how this company is still successful. It's bizarre. Have some standards when you're buying games. Well, at least gamers had standards when it came to this, because this only sold 1 million copies since launch, when they were hoping for a lot more. All the money and time they spent on this, on top of that, they're milking a big IP. They expected a lot more. And I hope this results in a lot of layoffs, because a lot of people who work in the games industry should not be in the games industry. And I don't have much else to say about this. Ubisoft and Star Wars Outlaws, go fuck yourself.